Warning: this program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berserker, this is Unshackled Fury.
Welcome everyone to a special BlizzCon 2023 edition, bonus edition of Unshackled Fury. I totally fucked that up, but we're going to keep going. I'm your host, Berserker, and today I'm joined by a very special guest who is no stranger to the show. He's the managing editor at Windows Central and one half of the dynamic duo on the number one Xbox podcast in the world, the Xbox 2 podcast. He is Mr. Jez Corden. Welcome back to Unshackled Fury, my friend. How the hell are you?
Man, I love your intros. It makes me sound like I'm competent and know what I'm doing.
You're the man. You're an unbelievable talent, and I am so lucky that you are willing to come on here and talk to me.
Oh no, man, I love coming out because like my audience, they're Xbox fans. They've got this sort of. They always ask me, like, "Is this coming to Xbox? Is this coming to Xbox? World of Warcraft coming to Xbox?" It's like a question I get almost like a few times a week at least. But they always hate it when I go off on a tangent about World of Warcraft, comparing like every single game I play to World of Warcraft. Like, well, World of Warcraft does it like this, and World of Warcraft does it like that. So they get fed up with me. So it's cathartic to come on the show. Actually cares about World of Warcraft and shoot the shit, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How you been, man? How have you been?
Whew. You know, I think I finally came back down from that BlizzCon high. You know, you head down to Anaheim, you're hanging out with 40,000 other nerds, and you're just vibing on everything that's going on. And then it's the combination of like information overload and the fact that you get no sleep, and so you're just fucking wrecked for like a whole week afterwards, just trying to catch up on brain space and energy and everything else, and all other news is coming out, and more interviews are coming out, and it's just it's the best time to be a World of Warcraft player and a Blizzard fan and everything else. You just get so much. So yeah, man, that's why I'm so happy to kind of bookend the sort of the BlizzCon wave with you, because we're now family. You and I are now part of the same family, and we've talked about this marriage happening for a little bit. So I guess that makes us stepbrothers. Is that how that works?
Yeah, maybe. It's like by marriage, I suppose. Yeah.
You know, I think your dad married my mom, and now we're gonna have a bunch of like half siblings, and then we're gonna have to figure out, you know, who's going to Thanksgiving and who's doing what tradition for Christmas, and you know, it's gonna have its growing pains, but I'm so excited to have you as part of the family.
Yeah, it's a weird time. Like I've been speaking to people pretty high up, you know, at Blizzard and Xbox about the whole thing, and even though like they've been working on it for over a year, I think overall now,
18
battling
months, however long that was.
Yeah, battling the regulators. Like it's been a blur, man. Because we were covering it constantly. Yeah. Every little scrap of news and the drama, the back and forth, the regulatory stresses, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's finally over now. It was such a relief, weirdly, that it was over. Yeah. Like from a just a work perspective, it was like, oh my god, thank God this beat is over now. Don't have to cover it anymore. You know, can move on. You know, because Xbox fans especially, I kind of feel like were sort of, they were pinning the future of the Xbox platform against this deal. Because Xbox isn't in a particularly great place. PlayStation's 3-1 outselling Xbox, and Xbox is something like that.
Ooh.
Globally speaking, like the Xbox is keeping pace in America. It's always done pretty well in America, but globally, Europe and Asia and stuff, PlayStation is just absolutely, completely dominant.
Wow.
So it's so a lot of and Microsoft being Microsoft, they don't need Xbox. So like, and they do things like just shut down entire departments.
That's
and like
true.
it doesn't even dent them. They're just like, oh well, we don't need this. We'll just cut it, So Xbox fans were pretty hopeful for this deal to go through, but I think like a lot of Blizzard fans kind of sensed that this was an opportunity to get Blizzard away from Activision and potentially, go back to a Blizzard that was a little bit more independent, could focus on the quality rather than the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And, Microsoft's shareholder culture, they don't care about Xbox. They never ask about Xbox at the shareholder meetings. They don't like, oh God, how's Xbox doing? They don't give a crap. So Xbox can basically do whatever it wants, as long as the business is profitable.
Yeah,
they kind of get away with a lot more than I feel Blizzard would by itself. So yeah, it's I'm glad it's all over with, and it's going to be an interesting future, I guess.
Yeah, what a saga, and I really relied a lot on people diving into, especially since you're on the other side of the pond, right? You're over in Europe. You're in Germany, if I recall.
Yeah.
And
I'm in Germany right now. Yeah.
There it is. So you, I think, had a really good bird's eye view of what was happening over there, and just it seemed like there was just a fundamental misunderstanding by regulators, both over there and here in America, about gaming, about how gaming works, about how competition works between all the various brands. Like it just seemed like they were falling flat on their faces and a whole bunch of times. And I remember just kind of screaming into the wind, like, holy shit, you just do not understand how any of this works. And
oh God, yes.
Oh my God.
So embarrassing as a Brit as well. Our regulator was the worst.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And you could tell, I don't know, maybe it's my background, maybe it's just the world that I've lived in for so long, but it definitely had the stink of outside money trying to influence some people, and that just it's painfully obvious when it's that bold. And I'm glad that it finally went through. And the point that you make as well about the portfolio itself, it was something that I was reading the other day, is when you look at the Microsoft portfolio as a whole, you're talking in the trillions, right? And so when you have Blizzard makes up like 1% now, or Activision Blizzard makes up like 1.5% of their total portfolio. And it is such a fundamental shift in mindset, I think, for those of us that have been on this side, where Blizzard was its own thing, and then Activision Blizzard was its own thing, and I was a shareholder, and I listened to those reports, and I got all the stuff in the mail, and I intently watched all of these things. And now to know that whole big giant story to us is now just a little teeny tiny fraction of this huge corporate empire is, I mean, it's a bit of a culture shock. But like you said, we on this side of things, especially on the Blizzard fan side, Blizzard player side, whatever you want to call us, the number one thing we were looking for, right, is change of management. Getting rid of Bobby Kotick, getting rid of the board, all the horrid decisions that they make, all the misconduct cover-ups that they had, like all of these things. And yeah, they're going to get a windfall in the hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it is. But you know what? It's a pittance compared to, I think, what it would have cost us to continue that even further. And so, yeah, it's that change in and of itself, I think, was one that we really welcomed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing about Activision, I suppose, was Kotick did own a significant chunk of it.
Yeah.
So ousting him would have been incredibly difficult. It's not like with the whole, I don't know if you followed the Unity drama over the summer.
Yes.
But Unity engine, they pushed some, for those who don't know, Unity pushed some really unpopular changes to its customer model over the summer, its monetization, and caught developers by surprise. And people reacted very, very badly to this.
Yes, they did.
Very, very badly indeed. Like people had planned out the business model of their games, and then Unity was just like, oh, by the way, now you have to factor in all these extra costs and stuff like that. So, it was a mess, to say the least. and they kind of, and because John, I can't pronounce his name, but the CEO, I'll just call him the CEO of Unity at the time, he was basically like ousted almost immediately by the board because he I'm sure he had some stock, and they did have stock rewards, and there was this whole thing where they were selling stock in bulk before they made the announcement to change the business model. Ooh. Which can constitute insider trading maybe. But yeah, they ousted him pretty damn quickly. Just out of nowhere, just boom, you're gone. That was a dumb decision, but they could not do that to Kotick. They couldn't get rid of him because he had so much stock and he had so much power, and he was personal friends with the board and all this kind of stuff. But it's all over with now. It's now Microsoft. Microsoft owns them now. Microsoft shareholder culture is very different to Activision's. Like World of Warcraft and a lot of the games, especially like before Dragonflight, I think before Mighty Bara and stuff like that, and they started realizing, we're mining this for money and we're not investing enough in it, kind of thing. I think even Kotick realized that they were basically asset stripping World of Warcraft for money, and the quality went down. We all know that story. But now that it's under Microsoft, they've got a completely different mentality about this. They're not as exposed to shareholders in the gaming arena, so they can do investments like this. And the $70 billion is an investment in Activision Blizzard. It's not like they've bought it with the view of like, let's just buy it and that's it. It's a $70 billion cash injection in that business to grow it, and hopefully bring World of Warcraft to new audiences. And I think the only way you do that is via raw quality and content breadth and depth. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future. As a player of Blizzard games, something had to change, and I think every single staffer I've spoken to from Blizzard is generally quite optimistic about it. There is some anxiety in sort of like the sort of administration adjacent departments, like publishing, for example. There's some anxiety that and marketing that Microsoft might look to do cuts in some of those departments because they've got their own marketing department, they've got their own PR department, and all that kind of stuff. So there might end up being some cutbacks in the future, and there's definitely some anxiety about that. But I think overall that people are excited about what this could mean for Blizzard, and I know I am.
Well, before we jump into BlizzCon proper, just to kind of get us up to this point in time, and you mentioned it already, is for those of us that have played, Dragonflight feels like as a whole has been wildly successful. The content has been rolling in at a pace we've pretty much never seen. The roadmaps, everything.
They just announced another patch,
and they just announced the next patch, 10.2.5 Seas of Renewal. It just keeps on coming, right? And the content itself, and the lands, and the Dragon Isles, the whole kit and caboodle has really felt so strong, so fresh. It's been a welcome change. Now we're coming off of Shadowlands, which essentially was the bottom, and now I think anything coming up would have been great. So I mean, maybe there's some accounting for that, but I think as a whole, the community has felt really, really good up to this point and through this point. How have you been feeling about Dragonflight yourself on this side?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I've really enjoyed Dragonflight from a content assistance perspective. Like, I haven't really played Evoker much, but it's really cool getting them in groups and augmentation. Evoker was a kind of exciting innovation. Like the fact that they're sort of support focused, like the first new sort of class archetype.
It's different
since the game launched. I think that's an exciting experiment that holds strong potential for the future. Hopefully, like how could they expand this to other classes? I suspect, like, if they do more classes in the future, it probably will have some sort of augmentation spec. I've long dreamed about having a World of Warcraft bard.
I knew it. That's what everyone says. The bard. That's the one.
I want the bard. Yeah. I want to but like Warcraft style, metal, like with a goblin guitar or the band in game,
Oh, Elite Foreign Chieftains.
Yeah, exactly. They are bards, basically, essentially. So let me play as one of those. I think that would be really cool. But
now you got me thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I love speculating on stuff that'll probably never happen. Like player housing.
This is how they find
out. Yeah, but there are some issues with Dragonflight, I think, that really need to be solved, and I think the community's been talking about this quite a lot. I've noticed on Twitter and on Reddit and stuff, and that's the writing, man. The writing is still kind of hammy and weird. I kind of think, like, it's funny because at the start of the expansion, I remember reading comments and people saying things like, "Oh man, it's really nice that we're in a low stakes story now, and that like Dragonflight almost feels kind of cozy, and it's nice after several expansions of apocalypse and genocide and death and depression and stuff like that. It's really nice. But now it feels like it's gone in the other direction, where people are like, man, can we get darker stories now? Like all this friendship is magic stuff is really annoying, and and I'm kind of feeling that a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm kind of feeling like I get where they're coming from now. I think Blizzard really struggles to strike a balance, I think, where it's like they go, and they do this with everything. They do it with class nerfs and class balances. They go like too far in one direction. It's like if a class is overpowered, they nerf them into the ground. Class is underpowered, they buff them to being completely overpowered. And I kind of like they do these knee-jerk reactions to player feedback, I think, and it's good that they do listen to player feedback, of course. But I think like there needs to be some kind of balance struck, and I think I would love to see more attention paid to story development, character development, and taking things a little bit slower. We went from like, okay, who's the big evil of this expansion? And it started off really promising. It was like, oh, Iridicron seems really cool, and the trio, the Proto Drake trio of Virinoth, Iridicron, and
the Primalists are badasses.
Yeah, they were cool. Like they all three of them together really complemented each other.
Oh yeah.
But then Iridicron abandoned ship. Iridicron abandoned ship pretty much randomly, which I kind of felt like it kind of undermined what I liked about him. Like, and Alex Straza herself even said in this patch to Farak, she even said like, you used to fight for an ideal. And I think that's what made them so compelling as villains to start with, is that they weren't just evil for the sake of being evil. Yes. They had ideals.
Yes.
But now, we've sort of the ideals are gone now. It's like Farak's like, oh, actually, yeah, I do all I do want is power. And you've got like Iridicron abandoned both of his siblings to go off on some vague crusade that we probably won't find out what he's up to for the next couple of years. And I kind of feel like that Blizzard got ahead of themselves. They could have told just a nice, interesting, compelling story with these three, and then like had Iridicron maybe escape the consequences of his own actions towards the end or something, and have that feed into the next story arc. But I don't know. Chris Metzen's back on the scene, which I suppose we'll talk about in more depth.
We will
when we go into BlizzCon. But I kind of feel like Dragonflight's wrapping up ahead of basically Chris Metzen shaping the future of the story and what it could mean. And so I'm optimistic for the story going forward, but I would like to see Blizzard invest a little bit more time in really thinking through some of the writing decisions they make. Because I think like that they are just like, oh god, we need to rush the content as fast as possible. And Mikey Barr even had an interview recently where he's like, players have no patience. They want content constantly, and he's right. He's not wrong exactly. People are really impatient, and I think that's kind of informing them to go at this breakneck speed. But I think the story suffers for it, because I think like no one's there checking if some of the story decisions they're doing make a lot of sense, because they're doing gameplay first, and I think most players are okay with that. I think most players don't really care about the story, to be honest. It's mostly guys like us who get really into
people if they read the quest text, and you get a lot of people out there like, well, quest text, what the fuck is that? I never read any of that. What are you talking about? No, you're absolutely right. They don't. They don't.
But at the same time, I think even when people don't read the quest text, I think the context of the world they're playing in still matters, even if they're not super engaged with it. But I don't know. I suppose it's either way. It's kind of like things will be different now. You know, with Chris Metzen back at the helm. Different. Microsoft has very different goals for what Blizzard looks like compared to Activision, and hopefully that'll translate into just good stuff. But
that's the hope.
You know, could also go the other way. Could end up not being good.
I mean, we've seen. Oh God, we've seen the highs and the lows. I mean, those of us that have been around long enough. I know you and I have.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen the highs and we've seen the falls, and you know, kind of to wrap up this part about Dragonflight is your observations the same that I have had, is where they're pumping this content out, and you know, it's striking that balance you mentioned earlier. Like, it's hard to strike that balance, to know what that is. And where at one time we're like, oh man, these patch cadences are horrific, like a year between major patches or whatever it was in Shadowlands, and you look back historically, there's always these charts that people post on Reddit and elsewhere, like, here's when all these patches hit and all the previous expansions, and they're hitting this pace. But I keep going, Jesus, I think this is too fast. Like, I can't get through it all. Like, I just can't. Like, I'm at the point now, and I talk about this from time to time, where the average player base for World of Warcraft is older, and we've got like jobs and kids and other shit going on. And so maybe I can steal an hour late at night after my wife has gone to bed, or, you know, I've got my raid nights where maybe I can cheat and get a couple more stuff, and maybe I do it at work during the lunch break because I work from home. I'm not saying that out loud, but I guess I did. You know, so there's these opportunities to try to get some of this content, you know, metabolized, but it just goes so freaking quick. And I do think it is too fast. And I know that there's people out there that chew it up and are able to just completely mash it all down in record speed. But I don't think there's a lot of us that do that. So at the end of the day, Blizzard has the numbers. They know. So if this is what it is, then this is what it is. But yeah, overall, and this was something we'll get to BlizzCon now, is, you know, part of the group interview that I was a part of. You know, that was the question that I asked, and Maria Hamilton answered it for me, which was, you know, they talked about how the way that they've structured their teams now is they're all overlapped in such a way that they can work on a live game and 2 expansions ahead all at the same time. I mean, the exact example that she used was, you know, she was, you know, going to be in the office, whatever, the Monday after BlizzCon, and she'll probably review something from 10.2, and then she's probably going to review something from War Within, and then she's probably going to review something from Midnight. Like, all in one day, she's going to be looking at all these different things. Yeah. And so, and this is how they've structured these things. And so they really do think they can keep whatever this kind of pace is. But it would be nice, I don't know, maybe you could throw out an extra couple weeks for us slow people. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, I that's the thing. Like, I worry like the overlap and the lack of focus is potentially what's leading to some of these sort of almost ham-fisted checklist style narrative decisions. And like we said earlier, the people who really do care about the story is probably minimal compared to the people who just want more raids, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with playing the game like that, and I suspect that most people play the game like that. But like, I did Dawn of the Infinite this morning.
Oh yeah.
And when I was pretending to actually do work, and hey, I'm writing an article about it's research.
Hey, that's it.
But and I noticed, like, when you fight the second boss, the necromantic dragon boss, can't remember his name, or is it the third boss? Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be the third boss. Yeah, when you're on the way to fight Iridikron, Galakron's head. Yeah. Karami starts talking about how, like, oh my god, it's full of necromantic energy, and it just kind of reminded me that they'd pulled that straight out of the WoW Chronicle book, right? Where it's like they show the cosmology and it's life versus necromancy and stuff like that. WoW never used to be like that. The lore never used to be like that. It was like where the player knows way too much, and I think it comes across a little bit like fan fiction-y. I hate to use that word because it's kind of cliche, and it's like it's a lazy way of criticizing writing, but there's hardly any other way to say it. And I think like after you play games like Elden Ring, where like they leave a lot to your imagination, but with the background, like with a consistent background cosmology, but then they let your imagination run wild and players speculate and they discuss and stuff like that. I kind of feel like narratively World of Warcraft these days gives way too much up to the player because the people writing it are just sort of following the WoW Chronicle, and it's like, okay, this is necromantic energy and this is void energy, so they've got to be in opposition. They've got to be represented in the story. Galakron was a decay Pokemon, so now we're gonna have an expansion all about, or a patch all about life Pokemon, and it's kind of like it becomes formulaic, and I hope medicine will rein some of that back in, and sort of bring it back to being like, okay, these are guidelines, and this is the consistency. This is where the consistency needs to be. The background of the universe needs to be like this, but the player doesn't need to know that. All this. There's like a cosmological battle going on in the background. Oh yeah. I could. Yeah. It's getting off kind of a tangent here, but that's the narrative has been the big issue with, I think, this content patch cadence. The content's great, but it does feel like the writing is suffering and underbaked as a result of rushing it. That's just me. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I always think of it sort of in this way, is like I'm just not critically thinking enough about the text and this and that. Like, I'm not a Rhodes Scholar. I've never been a published author. Like, I look at this stuff and I go, oh, okay, cool. We got to go kill a thing and then do a thing. And then, all right. Yeah, I don't put as much, I think, brain power on it as I think a lot of other people do, because I see these same comments. But I'm just sort of like, I'm just happy that there's a story, and we're going to fight a shadow flame dragon. And that just sounds like some epic D&D-esque sort of shit, which is the basis for World of Warcraft. So I'm here for it, and let's get going. But yeah, I hope that they maybe give themselves a little bit more buffer room, because I'm seeing some text in this latest patch that also is kind of getting called out as like, did we edit all this right? Like, is this all correct? Because this sounds a little weird, but at any rate.
People were saying it looked like ChatGPT.
I saw that exact comment, and I read that same quest text, and I was like, whoa, I don't know if this one got down enough, but be that as it may. 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, 2 weeks from tomorrow, actually, as we record this on Thursday, the 16th of November, and this is going out today, same day. So if you're listening to it today, hello. BlizzCon 2023. Now, everybody's got their speculations. Everybody's got, ideas about this, that, and the other thing. For you, what were your expectations heading into BlizzCon before we officially knew anything?
Well, I had an inkling about what was going to be. I knew Phil Spencer was going to be there before it was announced, and I did talk about that on my podcast. Like I said, Xbox fans will want to tune in. Now, a lot of Xbox fans were pissed at me because they're like, "What? Just to see Phil comment?" Like they were expecting that they were going to announce some kind of Xbox game there or something. Pass. Yeah, something like that. So I was like, well, yeah, that's the problem with teasing stuff. People inflate their own expectations into it, right? But I didn't know pretty much anything. I expected they were going to announce the Diablo expansion, as I think most people did.
Yeah.
I expected they were going to reveal Project Odyssey, which is a survival game. I really thought we'd see that there, but no, still baking in the oven. I think they want to make that as good as it can be at launch. So, because I think it will get compared to Fallout 76. The gameplay to me looked very similar, in the sense that it's like, it's first person, you can build little buildings, I think. you can set up like player shops and stuff like that as well. So like, yeah, I've seen gameplay of Odyssey.
This is the unannounced survival game. Ago.
Yeah. It's I shouldn't have seen the footage, but I have seen it. It's in the Overwatch engine. It looks like Fairy Tail. It looks like Pixar's Fallout 76. Basically, it looks like Overwatch Fairy Tail's Fallout 76. It looked really good. You know, I saw like a character with a bow and arrow, like an archer kind of thing, in a fairy tale kind of forest. Didn't look far removed from the Emerald Dream, to be honest. But there's also like this sort of steampunky kind of tech going on in it as well, kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it looked really cool. Whimsical, I suppose, is the best way of describing it. But yeah, it's in the Overwatch engine, so first-person shooter, but also survival game akin to Fallout 76. And I think like they'll really want to avoid, you know, the comparisons from a quality perspective, because Fallout 76 is doing really well now, but boy oh boy, it did not do well at launch, and I think the launch state of the game permanently hurt it. I think there's a lot of people who are just like, I won't even consider trying Fallout 76 no matter how good it is now, because of you know, the pariah status it earned for itself. But these kind of games are extremely popular. Like one of our top performing articles from the recent WoW indie partner event thing they did was the Ark Survival Ascended announcements. Because Ark Survival Evolved's being remastered, and that's a similar kind of game where you build stuff and fight dinosaurs and all that kind of stuff. So these games are so popular. They are so popular. So I can see Blizzard trying to tap into that and doing a good job of it, I think. So I guess they want to bake that more in the oven. Okay. I was not expecting 3 WoW expansions to be announced.
No.
That was wild. I was like, what? Are you for real? But I'm kind of like, I'm kind of nervous about this. For the same reasons we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to rush this stuff. I'm scared they're going to rush it, and the story's not going to make any sense, and it's going to feel ham-fisted and forced and quick and stuff like that. And maybe it'll be fine, and maybe I'm just, you know, doom and glooming for no reason. But I was not expecting 3 expansions to be announced. I was just expecting the 1 expansion to be announced. I was really. Did you see that so-called leak? The Avaloran thing, yeah.
It all looked like bullshit to me.
They got the dwarfs right, though. That was
data mine. There was some kind of achievement in this, you know. And if I had a chance to ask, like,
the Storm Rider thing.
Yes, if I had a chance to ask any other question, and I probably should have asked this one when I had the chance, was when this stuff gets data mined by Wowhead, because Wowhead is like the fucking unofficial partner that none of us can get rid of. When they data mine this stuff, is it intentional? Like, because Blizzard can hide things, and we've seen this now, where in some of the data mining, they will hide things. So we don't have visibility into it via the data mining. Did they intentionally put that in there as like, oh shit, we know they'll find it, and there'll be a little tease and this and that, and then they'll kind of have an idea what's going on? Or did like somebody just totally fuck up and forget to take it out? Like, I would love to know whether or not they're doing this to us intentionally or not. But that was how they found out, was there was some achievements and some mounts and some other stuff, and so they knew Storm Dwarf something.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty good fake. I thought I was worried that was real. You know, I didn't look into it too much, but I was like, oh, that's you know, that aligns with the fragments we've got and stuff. I hope it's not real, because it looked really bland. It looked like, oh god, Dragonflight again.
Bland.
I didn't look into it too much. Yeah, I was way too busy.
I was
but
dear God, no.
Yeah, but I think War Within looked pretty damn cool. Like, there's some unique concepts in there. The crystal coming through the ceiling stuff. I think a lot of that stuff looks really interesting and compelling. But I was not expecting all 3 expansions to be announced. I was not expecting Chris Metzen to be on stage, and I wasn't expecting how impactful that would feel for me. You know, and I'm sure you felt the same way. Like, I've been playing WoW since the beginning. You know, 20 years.
Yeah.
and the game means a lot to me. The universe means a lot to me, and Chris Metzen's sort of, he's a sort of, I don't know, emblematic of that era of WoW's sort of prime time, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
So the idea that he could potentially bring WoW to some degree back to those glory days was a really exciting, but tantalizing possibility that I thought was really interesting. But yeah, I expected more surprises though outside of Warcraft. It felt like a very Warcraft heavy show. They barely showed anything but Diablo, really.
That's true.
Yeah,
they didn't.
There was nothing even aspirational for StarCraft. We got a patch for Heroes of the Storm a few weeks ago, which made me want to believe for a moment that maybe, possibly, something was going to happen with Heroes again.
Yeah.
Alas, it did not. But overall, I thought it was a really good show, and I hope that I'll be able to make it there next year. I just couldn't financially justify this year, but maybe next year.
That would be awesome.
Did it meet your expectations? What were you expecting from it?
Now that I'm a little less brain fuzzy, and because I did record something right after I got home, and I still only had half a brain. It blew me away in a few ways. The first, as you've already talked about, the 3 expansions at one time. It's never been done, right? We've seen kind of, I think of like you mentioned Iridikron, like taking off, or that he could have escaped at the end of something or whatever. That's kind of what they did with Gul'dan, and so for like 3 expansions, we had him around, and he was in Legion, and he was kind of the mastermind behind a bunch of stuff, and so they've kind of loosely done it, but to have it this central, this upfront, this blatant, like, here it is, boom, boom, boom. Like you got, for me, to piggyback off of what you said about Metzen, to be in the arena, right? To be there physically, not just like far away or in some other hall or whatever it is, to be in a seat in a good viewing position to watch him come on. I lost my shit. Like I acted like a complete asshole. Like I was jumping up and I was pumping my fist and I was yelling. At one point I yelled, "I love you, Dad." Like, I mean, it was embarrassing. Right. But it just, it's the affinity that I have for him. And, after all of the ills that have happened and befallen that whole company, to hear to a person that he really is just as cool as you think he is, like to be given that sort of surety, and then to see him and then to get wrapped up live and in person when he's, screaming and yelling stuff and, getting you on your feet. It's just energy that it's so singular in time. Like, it's that moment that you get to live, right? And get wrapped up in that. It's so fucking cool. And then it's like, that he's out there and something's going to get announced. And then he goes, not just 1, but 3. And you're like, oh shit. And he was like, it's going to be epic. How epic? Real epic. And it's just like the way.
And his voice, man. Oh, he is so charismatic.
Unbelievable. Like, and we all know it, right? We those of us again that have been around, we know. But to see it live, to experience it in person, to like have the sound waves of his voice announcing these things like penetrate your body, like it's like a religious experience. I think for me.
Yeah, man.
So to go through all of
it's like being at a concert, like
yes.
When you say like religious experience, like I immediately thought of like some of the best concerts I've been to, and and being able to fully immerse yourself into what you're passionate about. It's so annoying that like I feel like gamers have to apologize for their hobby, and it's like, God, you're such a nerd if you go to BlizzCon and you get excited about this stuff being announced. But like if we get reductionist here and talk about the chemical signals in the brain and stuff like that, it's not exactly far removed from going to a music concert or something like that, right? Which no one thinks is uncool.
No.
So I'm so jealous you got to experience that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and it blew my expectations away in that sense. And like you mentioned, I was expecting something from the survival game. Like I really thought that they were gonna tease something or show something, because although I have not seen anything personally, you know, talking to at least one individual who's had hands on, you know, saying that, you know, it looked cool and this and that, and you know, I thought, well, maybe we'll see something, and we didn't. Beloved StarCraft, right? I'm like, maybe the survival game will be turned into a StarCraft game. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like Warcraft #1, right? But StarCraft, I just have such this deep and abiding love for StarCraft, and I'm so sad that it just sits right now, at least as far as we see, on the shelf. And I know it gets mentioned, and I know, like, I think Phil Spencer might have mentioned it somewhere. It was like in a video at one point. Like, I'm sure that they will bring it back. And even Mark Ibarra, I think, said that if they bring it back, it won't be RTS. It might be something else. So and you told me once, because I asked you, I said, is StarCraft dead? And you assured me, like, no, StarCraft is not going to be dead. And I do feel like there'll be a future for it. But man, it's been a long fucking wait. And
well, like Mike Ibarra said it. He said he didn't say if they bring it back. They said it will be brought back.
Yeah,
and it won't be an RTS. And I actually like, oh crap! I just jumped off the building. But where was I? I drunkenly leaked StarCraft 3 a few months ago.
I think I missed
a year ago. Yeah. So someone tweeted me something to the effect of, you know, I was like, I'm drunk, ask me anything. Someone asked me about StarCraft 3 or something. I can't remember exactly how it went down, but they were like, StarCraft 3, and I was like, yes, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, I walked it back because I saw a bunch of you know, YouTubers picked it up, the StarCraft YouTubers who are like, you know, they want any scrap of information about StarCraft is really compelling. You know, if you kind of like in the fandom and you're sort of like, oh god, we haven't had anything for this franchise since forever. And I walked it back because I realized I don't actually know if it's StarCraft 3. I just knew it was StarCraft something, and I was thinking, oh god, what if it's a mobile game? You know, what if it's StarCraft Immortal, or something?
Oh god,
do you guys even have phones? People are going to be coming at me with pitchforks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't know exactly what it was. All I know is that basically what Mike said recently was that it's coming back in some form, and I suppose, like, now that I think about it, the way I got this information, the fact that it was sort of like in some form and not an RTS, that was basically a hint that it wouldn't be StarCraft 3, I guess. So I think the next StarCraft probably will be a shooter. They've tried to do it before, and it's an obvious shooter game. You know, potential. You know, you got your Space Marines, you got your different classes and all that kind of stuff. Like it could be like a really compelling shooter, and they've got a shooter engine which they're using for Odyssey. It makes every scrap of sense to sort of, you know, make a StarCraft shooter. Like people still talk about StarCraft Ghosts to this day. You know, and
this day,
it's crazy. You know, like StarCraft was at its height back then. People were really hyped for this game, and people still talk about it even now. It's kind of wild that it's still kind of wild that it got cancelled, because this was, you know, Blizzard at its height, which do no wrong basically. Yeah. And it's like, oh my god, Blizzard cancelled the game,
and we saw it. Like, they demoed the damn thing. Like,
they demoed it. Yeah. You know, so maybe, I personally expect it to be a shooter on the Overwatch engine. I suppose the real question is, will it be like a story-based game or some kind of shoot, like multiplayer only experience? Because I would not want it to be a service game first, because StarCraft, one of the cool things about StarCraft, and of course the fact that it's so compelling as a competitive, you know, sport, basically. Like, StarCraft is part of the origin story for modern esports in a way.
I love
it. I would hate that they would neglect StarCraft's story potential. Yeah. Because this is a game that has really rich lore.
Yes.
Really compelling lore. Really interesting characters. And it's the sci-fi side of the Warcraft coin in a way. So I would hope that if they do a shooter, that it does have a full-blown campaign mode, unlike Overwatch. And obviously, the death of Overwatch campaign mode is what I would argue is widely credited for the game's fall from, grace in a way. People aren't as interested in that anymore because I feel like there's no real, the game doesn't have a real backbone of a future.
Well, I mean, Overwatch League is now dead.
Yeah, like what exactly? What can you really do with Overwatch except just keep adding new heroes to it? The campaign was supposed to make the universe of Overwatch feel like something worth getting invested in,
right?
And now that they're not doing that anymore, it doesn't feel like I don't know, as prestigious as it once did in the Blizzard library, I guess you could say. But
it's been a hell of a fall.
Epic tangent there.
It's been hell of a fall, and I totally agree about the campaign, the PvE stuff. That's what got me really excited, because I think the question that most of us have asked is, what is Overwatch 2? Like, what does that mean? Overwatch 2? Like, how do you make a sequel? Like, that doesn't... And then the way that they roll it out, it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And yeah, they're adding heroes, and I really I will say I appreciate the lens through which they are viewing the universe in terms of adding heroes and the kinds of representation that they're aiming for. Like, I think all of that is fantastic. It's just unfortunate that one of the big reasons for Overwatch 2 I thought was having this PvE campaign that some of us that, like, I get my ass kicked when I jump in there and play a bunch of kids that, whoop my ass, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still playing Soldier 76 because it's like the most basic dude, and like he's my guy, and it's just easy, and I don't know what else to do. I get smoked, and so the chance to go in and be in that universe, because it is ripe with potential. I was at the BlizzCon when they announced it, and I've only been to 3, and luckily I've been to a couple of big ones. And when I went to that one, I think it was 2014, and Metzen came out and was like, we got this new thing, and they hit that cinematic for the first time. I was just dumbfounded. I'm like, this looks amazing. Like, this is crazy. Like, wow, look at all this. Yeah. And to see then to now, 9 years later, where it's like, ooh, I don't know how this franchise survives. And maybe I'm just not plugged in enough, but
I've been told that it's doing really well in terms of engagement and the stuff they really care about, which is people spending money in a game. So like, it's never going to be up there with a Fortnite these days and stuff like that. It's still like a big pillar franchise and a big pillar business for Blizzard, even if it's like nowhere near the height where it perhaps used to be, especially with the esports dying, and you're probably going to see a gradual decline to the point where it gets where it gets Heroes of the Stormed, where it ends up being in maintenance mode and they don't do any new heroes and stuff like that. I mean, that's the trajectory that Heroes of the Storm was on, right?
Yeah,
like they shut down the esport, and then the content dried up.
Heroes of the Dorm was one of the greatest contests I ever watched. When they had those college kids doing it. Oh, fuck, that was awesome.
Heroes of the Storm was so fun to watch.
It was.
And like one of the only esports I ever actually bothered watching. As someone who isn't really big into esports, but yeah, I do kind of feel like we're gonna see Overwatch go down that trajectory. That's my fear, that people are just stop being interested in it, like because they killed the PvE mode, and I can't help but feel like it was owing to a lack of investment. I feel like if they'd done that under the WoW, the Xbox regime, I kind of feel like they might have just invested in it until it worked, because Xbox kind of does that, and they're doing that with Redfall right now. Redfall is this sort of like absolute disaster of a game. And they just announced another patch for it. They really want to give that game redemption story. And it's not impossible. Cyberpunk 2077, that's nominated for Game of the Year this year. Or best ongoing game. Sorry,
yeah.
But the Game Awards, and it's not outside of the realm of possibility where you can invest in a game that has issues and save it. I feel like Xbox would have invested to get the campaign mode for Overwatch done, but that's not what Activision shareholders care about. They want investment going towards things that make short-term gains. And that's what Activision's always been about, the short-term gain. They asset strip everything until it's done to death, and underinvest, and then they bail. They did it to Skylanders. They did it to Guitar Hero. Oh, yeah. That's what Activision does, and they're doing it to Call of Duty now. Like this year's Call of Duty, rushed out, like low budget, that do it as quick as possible. Just get it out the door because they know people will buy it regardless. There's only you can only get away with that so much, you know. And if Activision without Xbox, I feel like Activision would have been putting Call of Duty on a path to being Guitar Hero'd. But anyway, that's another tangent there, I suppose.
Well, you're the man in the middle of a lot of this, and so that's why I appreciate getting your perspective. And we're gonna jump back just real quick to Warcraft and talk a little bit more about what got announced. And I have to ask you, because anybody that was around me when it happened, anybody that listened to the last episode that I released knows how much the Anduin cinematic affected me. And I even I messaged you when we were DMing originally, and I sent you that screenshot of Anduin's face, and God, I know you were all about it too. But I mean, for me, and I went into a long story about this before. I won't rehash the whole thing, but I mean, it really affected me, and being there, seeing it live and in person, like it fucked me up. Like I was a weepy mess. Like it crushed me. But for you, I mean, it's just from the technical standpoint, we know it's amazing. But you know, how did that come when you saw that for the first time? What did you think? What did you feel?
I thought Blizzard cinematics are just, they're on another level, you know. And we've already seen like one of the cinematics directors has already said like, I want to work on Gears of War cinematics, you know. Yeah. Like the excitement or the potential of Microsoft to invest in growing that company to the point where like maybe they're not just making cinematics games, maybe they're making entire movies, you know, with this tech, because that is like Blizzard's in-house cinematics are absolutely legendary, and they've always been legendary. It's like it's one of the things Blizzard does so well that no one can take away from them. And that's why it's so annoying that the dumb Game Awards panel didn't give Blizzard any sort of recognition for art direction this year. Like Diablo 4, like the live service hasn't been great, but that art direction is so much better than some of the games that have been nominated. And it just goes to show, like, I mean, it's again another tangent, but yeah, the cinematic, the Anduin cinematic, absolutely mind-blowing for me. I was like, it kind of, Shadowlands is a sore point for a lot of people, right? Yeah. And I think, like, rightfully so. There's kind of, Shadowlands was very symptomatic of that sort of rush development, I think, low budget, and just sort of, you know, kick it out the door mentality. And I think like the whole borrowed power structure that Blizzard started sort of investing in, that's kind of like Activision's battle pass mentality, where it's like, we want players to play this now, and then we want to force them all over onto the next new thing. And you kind of see this a lot in the mobile game industry, like the Angry Birds devs are shutting down Angry Birds Classic because they want people to spend money on Angry Birds, the new thing, right? Yeah. But you know, it didn't really work for WoW, and it didn't apply to WoW, and thankfully they've recognized that. But one of the good things that did, I think, emerge from Shadowlands was some of the character development, not all of it. And you know, we can talk about what the weird direction that they took Sylvanas in, and the awfulness of the jailer and stuff like that. But I will say, I kind of feel like they've handled Anduin's story arc quite well, and is kind of like the sort of the trauma that he would have experienced as a result of that domination magic and being. Dude was literally in hell. Yes. They were all in the literal World of Warcraft version of hell. I mean, this side of the twisting nether, I suppose, if you don't really know for sure what the full nature of the twisting nether is, but the Maw is as close to hell as you can get, and Anduin was basically stuck there with like ghosts and all this kind of spooky stuff floating around. And the game's got cartoony graphics and it's kind of Pixar-y in its presentation, but I felt like the cinematic was hyper realistic and kind of gave us a sort of what if this had really happened? Yeah. What if Anduin had really gone through these things? And let's forget that the jailer was terrible and just think about what he did to Anduin. I thought that was portrayed so damn well. And the way that like the subtle nod to Arthas when he did that, the pose with his sword. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of that sword, but when he did, is that what it is? Chalamet. Okay, that's not as hard as I thought. But I've seen it written, but I've never heard it said. Chalamet. But when he does that pose, and it's like it's so iconic and recognizably Arthas. It's like, oh god, like Anduin sort of got it in his head that he could have that sort of similar darkness in him that Arthas had. And like, Arthas was subtly influenced by domination magic potentially. And maybe Sylvanas was subtly influenced by domination magic potentially as well. Some people don't like discussing that because it kind of absolves them of responsibility for their actions and it gets all kind of complicated. But I think through Anduin and the presentation of Anduin's struggle, potentially they could sort of maybe make sense of some of the worser plot points from Shadowlands. Yeah. And sort of like explain away. So this is how Sylvanas felt, or this is how this person felt, or this is how this person felt, potentially through Anduin's eyes. And I think that's something I hope that they don't screw up, because so far they've done a really good job of it. And it was presented so well in that cinematic, and so much emotional depth in those facial expressions and all that kind of stuff. Really exciting, really impressive, and I hope we see more of it. The one good thing from Battle for Azeroth, or the best. I actually quite like Battle for Azeroth overall, personally. Yeah. But one of the best things about Battle for Azeroth was the frequent cinematics they did for that game. Lots of CGI. For some of the major story beats, like the Makara battle. Oh. Yeah. I pronounced that right. Yeah, Makara. And again, I've seen it written, but not heard it pronounced that much. But the battle and Sylvanas and all that kind of stuff, and
that whole story with Sarfang, where when Anduin went to see him, like when he was all jailed up, right, and seeing that.
Yeah,
there was the
all
thing
that stuff.
Took his shoulders off, and we had that whole series, and it got us thinking, hey, maybe we'll get more of these. No.
Yeah, I kind of want to hope that the reason we haven't got them in Dragonflight is because they're doing them for War Within, and they're just like, that rather than spend their time on this expansion, they've spent their time on the next expansion instead. I love
that so much.
And I suppose, they probably had their work cut out as well with Diablo as well, because making these cinematics are probably like intense, I imagine. Yeah. And that's probably what one of the bottlenecks to getting more of them is probably just how much raw art and how much raw work it is. And the same team would have been doing the Diablo cinematics, which were similarly unreal. Yeah, absolutely incredible. So I don't begrudge the fact that we didn't get Dragonflight cinematics very much. Yeah. Because like even the Dragonflight cinematic with the rock dude whose name I can't remember. Yeah, Stony Tony. That was incredible too. Yeah. Like these guys, like they do no wrong basically.
And that one was a real shot in the dark too, I think, because you start out 10,000 years ago, whatever it was, and it's like, okay, what the hell is going on here? And it's like, these are characters I don't know. Like, what has happened? Where is this place? Like, even if you don't know anything, right? You're going in cold. You're like, what the fuck am I watching? And now then I get invested in the story of this guy. And even still, I could watch it to this day. And when he gets to the top and he's like using all of his strength to close that thing together, and like his hands are breaking apart and that music is swelling like the fucking Avengers, I'm like, do it, buddy. You can do it. Like, even then, like, I'm kind of getting wrapped up in it. And you're right. They can do no wrong, but holy shit, did they take it to another level this time? I mean, God.
Yeah, they did. I mean, not a whole lot of stuff happened. It's so character oriented. Like the acting is top notch, man. Like really great stuff. And it's weird to think that's also Chris Metzen.
Yeah.
You know? It's like
that's why they had to bring him back. Green Jesus has got to have his human visage ready to go, and so now we're gonna get lots of that. Speaking of the War Within, so we got that first big tease, right? And it was funny because I mentioned this before. There was a guy in the crowd. Everybody starts yelling at Metzen when he's on stage because everybody wants to have their little moment. Like a dumbass that yells, "I love you, Dad." Those kinds of things. And somebody yelled something about the sword in Silithus, and he corrected them. It's like, it's Silithus, and I couldn't hear what they said. But then I think for him, having known that at the end of that cinematic, you would see that giant sword, and it's like, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker. Just wait till you see this thing, And then it's like, boom, that sword, and then boom, off, and here we go. And it's such a good tease to head into that story. And now we've kind of seen some of the zones, and we know that it's part of this overarching World Soul saga, like this whole giant, Infinity Stone and thing that they're gonna do now, because Metzen's a comics guy, right? He wants to have the big cool arc and bring in the Silver Surfer. I mean, whoever is gonna come in and do a bunch of shit, right? It's cool in that way. The War Within, right? Taking a look at that, what we've seen, the story. You mentioned the zones like Hollow Fall, where they have a big stone in the ceiling that changes light and void or whatever's doing. At least on its face, just this first chapter, does it look like we're heading in a direction that's going to keep people's interest enough on its own, or can it really never be separated from what we now know is this three-act arc?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I suppose one of my concerns about the 3-act arc is like, they were saying about they're going to have an increased cadence of expansion drops.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like maybe they're going to go in for like annual, and which means like maybe we get, I don't know, like 3-month seasons, and we get 2 seasons and then into the next expansion straight away. I'm kind of worried that quality will take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Quality and size, I guess, because I think like it'll be less compelling if like it'll start feeling like we've paid for a $70 content patch if like there's only like 3 or 4 zones in the expansion or whatever. Like, and they're talking like the only zone they really mentioned in Midnight was Quell for Last, and I'm thinking like, how big's Quell for Last? Does that mean like they're gonna revamp the entire Eastern Kingdoms for that expansion? Are we getting like
no, but it'll be some handful of zones. We'll get shined up or something.
I'm guessing it's going to be basically the northern Eastern Kingdoms, maybe like, from I guess
and some of the other
Arathi and up, I would think maybe.
That could be cool.
I mean, if they do like Tirisfal, Plaguelands as one zone, Ghostlands, there's kind of like a blank area above Eastern Plaguelands. I've noticed. There's a blank area above Eastern Plaguelands and a blank area on the other side next to the Ghostlands, which I presume is meant to be like the Zulaman area. And then you've got like Eversong Woods, and then you've got Isle of Caldenas at the top from Burning Crusade. So like, I suppose they could like revamp that whole northern half, everything above the Thandal span, I guess, maybe. And that could be pretty cool, And maybe like the next bunch of expansions revamps like a quarter of each part of Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdom. I could get behind that, maybe. But I do worry, like, will it go far enough? Because I don't know, like sometimes when they do like these zone revamps and stuff, it's still a lot of old graphics and a lot of old ground clutter. Like when you go to like, and this is one of the things I don't like about the current Mythic Plus seasons that they do. Like when you go from like a Dragonflight dungeon, which has like the modern textures, the modern ground clutter, like you go from like I don't know, a Braconide dungeon, and then you step into like something from Cataclysm. It's like, oh god, I've gone back like 3 or 4 console generations now. I'm playing on a PS1 game now. You know, I really hate that. It's really jarring for me. Most people probably don't care, but anyway, so again, gone off on a tangent, but circling back around to your original question, I suppose the concern would be that these again are rushed, because they do want to get more box copies out there. You know, being able to spend $70 a year, getting your customers to spend $70 a year rather than every 2 years or every year and a half or wherever the cadence is right now. That's the Call of Duty model, right?
Yeah.
Call of Duty model is you basically buy an expansion every year, because let's face it, every Call of Duty game is basically the same as the last one, just with a few different maps. Yeah, but the mask is well and truly slipping there, and you know, people are starting to get really tired of that model, and a lot of people are calling for them to move to a 2-year model for Call of Duty.
Yeah,
because the quality is dipped so much. I'm worried that we'll go the same way. Like if you know, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, of course I am, but I'm worried that the quality is going to suffer if they go down this path of trying to, you know, just release games expansions more quickly. I could be completely wrong. I hope I am, but that's my current concern with it. Don't know if you feel differently.
They seem to think that, you know, again, it's always reading the tea leaves with these folks, and I appreciate their guarded nature about it, because, like you said, it's balance, right? Let's go back to balance, right? Every 2 years, seems like that's not what they're shooting for, and if that happens again, they're probably gonna catch a ration of shit for it. So a year, probably too quick. It feels like 18 months, like in that neighborhood. That's probably what they're shooting for, somewhere in there, give or take. It also depends on, you know, their continuance of doing these, like we just talked about. 10.2.5 announced, then there'll be a 10.2.7, and then because they said there's going to be 3 more content patches after 10.2 and before the pre-patch for War Within. So that's still a fair amount of drops, and that does continue to kick out your calendar a little bit. And so rather than doing these giant patches with 50 things in them, it seems like they're, you know, let's do a big patch with these 10 things, and then we'll do a mini patch that's got another 5 things. And so they're kind of able to dole it out a little bit longer and over a further period of time. So it makes the calendar feel fuller. And, you know, if we're only doing 10 or 2 raids, right, that could be done in about an 18-month period, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that was a question that was asked in the Q&A that they released last week, and I appreciate that they actually did ask this question, because a lot of people asked. The way that the term that Ian Hazzikostas used was game shrinkflation. Like, should we worry about that because of the cadence, because of what's going on? Are we getting less when you're dropping all this cash? Is it, you know,
shrinkflation.
How badly are we going to get screwed? Which also then brings me to the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you were very vocal about the 3-day early access and the you know, $90 version of the War Within that you could already pre-purchase, which would guarantee you 3 days of early access to the expansion. And this was immediately met with a lot of resistance and people talking about all the various reasons why this may not necessarily be a great idea. And their explanation for it in the Q&A was, well, we were trying to get more value for these other editions. So you got a base edition has this, and then the next edition has this, and then the top edition, we had to give them something else. And so we thought, looking at the rest of gaming, this is like a common practice or something that we could do to reward people who pay more, and they get to have it a little bit early. And you, I think, are one of the best people I can ask about this, because you have your hand in so many different, you know, gaming areas and games and different folks. is this a bad idea? Is this a common thing? Like give folks the flavor of how big a bullshit this either is or isn't.
I mean, it's become a common thing over the last year, I think, and it kind of is just getting money for nothing. And at the end of the day, these companies are all about perpetual growth and, growing the platforms at, at the expense of everything at the end of the day. Like, does it matter really if we have a sort of an early access period? Does it actually matter? Is it going to impact the game? Is it going to impact players? Not really. It's not going to impact players that much. But at the same time, I kind of feel like Blizz hasn't earned the good faith to do stuff like this. I kind of feel like Blizzard has gotten a reputation for being greedy as hell.
Yeah.
And you look at the Diablo store, the price of skins is absurd.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like some of the skins are just so expensive, and they've really leaned into FOMO recently, which I kind of like. Gamers are really smart, generally speaking, and they're really clued in and switched on about stuff that I kind of feel like a lot of other fandoms don't really pay attention to that much. And at least like when it comes to the core audience, the people who probably listen to podcasts like this and read news articles and stuff like that, they can smell bullshit a mile away. Yeah. And the problem is Blizzard is peddling a lot of bullshit these days. And one of the biggest avenues of bullshit they're peddling is in this sort of like monetization that they've been doing, which is egregiously expensive in some cases and exploitative in others. And I think the reason people don't like this is because FOMO based marketing stuff is exploitative, because it sort of preys on people's fear of, there's a social pressure aspect attached to it. And like one of the most annoying ones recently in Diablo is this $65 bundle, or you get like a bunch of currency, but you also get a special horse.
Yes.
So like most people will be like, I won't spend $65 on currency unless I feel like having that much currency to buy other stuff. But what if you really want that horse? What if that horse looks really good with your transmog and all that kind of stuff? On the one hand, it's kind of like, well, if you are weak to that stuff, that's a you problem, and fair enough. I think like you could apply this model to anything, like clothes or fashion, and there's fashionable brands that do this kind of stuff, and it's but it's kind of new in gaming in a way, and it's sort of like gaming was always meant to be this sort of great equalizer where no matter even if you were rich or poor, like a millionaire or whatever, you sort of all came together on equal footing to have these experiences. Like, I mean, like there's a lot of, celebrity World of Warcraft fans and players and stuff. Yeah. And they can't use their millions to become better than you.
Right.
I mean, well, maybe they can play more often because they don't have to work as much or something. But, but like, if I'm a Jack, I think is it Jack Osborne, Ozzy Osbourne's kid? He plays World of Warcraft. Like there's nothing that he could do to use his money to get better at the game than me. Yeah. Really. Yeah. And he could buy a bunch of tokens or whatever. But so I think that all these kind of mechanics sort of they do sort of betray that tradition that everyone's equal in the game, I suppose. And I think that's why there's some pushback on it. But at the same time, it's kind of like it's not really a big deal. I don't think it's going to impact too much on players. It is kind of irritating that like maybe my guild will be split by people who do get the bonuses and people who don't. That's kind of annoying, but once it's happened, it's over with. It'll be forgotten, and most people have said their piece on it and sort of willing to move on now generally. But I don't know. We're going to see more of this, not less. honestly, sadly. And kind of is what it is, I suppose.
It's usually the way that these sorts of controversies go, is there's a big swell of energy, and then eventually people kind of forget about the stuff, and then before you know, it's like, oh, 3-day access starts today, and okay, and like off we go. So yeah, I'm one of these people that I will hold out for the physical collector's edition because I'm old and I need like a physical box to touch, I guess. But it's always the art books. That's really what I'm paying for, is just to get the art books. And a fancy mouse pad, because I am using the Dragonflight one right now. Last thing on BlizzCon before I move on to our last couple topics here. The one, I guess, issue that I had, other than the fact that there was no seating in the fucking place, is the lack of panels. Because usually BlizzCons, we just had panels up the ass about anything and everything, and they were in all different halls, and you had a bunch of competing times, and you really kind of had to figure out what you had time to watch or what you were going to watch later or this and that. For somebody who watched it remotely, was that a better experience for you, that there was basically just one main presentation channel, or do you kind of miss having all of the competing ones, or what was your take on that?
Well, I mean, I kind of like the new format as a remote viewer. It definitely made it easier to cover, but I think that's kind of selfish because not everyone is covering the event like a blogger, right? So from a coverage perspective, yes, I did prefer it. But as a gamer and someone who, watches BlizzCon and stuff, it was kind of, it did feel like there was something missing this year, but at the same time, you know exactly why they've done it this way, right?
No.
Because it's so people can't troll, so there won't be like a dev sort of put on the spot and say something out of context. It's because of the don't you guys have phones thing. I know that wasn't at a panel necessarily. Or actually,
it was a presentation. It was a Q&A or something.
So it's because of that. They don't want to have that memeable negative PR moment, because that really, at least their perception is, that hurt Blizzard.
Yeah, it did.
And they don't want to put the devs on the spot, which is why the questions are very curated. They set them up beforehand and stuff, and they were pre-approved and all that kind of all them things. So that's exactly why they've gotten rid of the panels. And I get it. I do get it. It's probably nicer for the devs. They don't feel like they have to be put on the spot.
Yeah.
They don't have to they don't have to be made to feel like they're in a PR situation, right? So I appreciate why they've done it. At the same time, it's a shame. It's kind of like that. The phrase, "This is why we can't have nice things," right?
That's why we can't have the live Q&A anymore.
Yeah,
which was always my favorite.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh well.
Anything else about BlizzCon that either hit you, you liked, didn't like? Any other thoughts about BlizzCon 2023?
I don't know. I liked it overall. I'm kind of, again, there's unfounded fears and worries, but I'm a little bit worried that Microsoft might not continue it, because I do know that BlizzCon doesn't make any money.
No,
it's a huge money sink.
Yeah.
And Microsoft generally doesn't do that kind of stuff. They've kept QuakeCon going, and but they stopped doing Minecraft live, and they now do it like as a studio show. It's not like anyone can just attend that anymore. It's sort of like this closed thing now. So I do worry that these sort of big events for BlizzCon I'm just worried that Microsoft won't continue them. I really hope they do. And I'm constantly talking to people at Microsoft. Like, you don't realize how passionate the Blizzard fandom is. Like, they're so passionate, and I kind of feel like you'll be doing yourselves a massive disservice if you fuck with them. Basically, if you don't sort of continue or enhance what people want to see better. They don't want to see anything compromised. And I think like I think Phil Spencer showing up was sort of an olive branch to the Blizzard community, being like, look, we want to make sure that we continue this. We don't want to hurt things. And now the fact that Phil was the only person who mentioned StarCraft.
Yeah.
At the event.
My man.
Which bugged the hell out of me. I was like, Mike come out and he's like, where's my Overwatch fans at? Where's my Warcraft fans at? Didn't mention StarCraft, and that really bugged me.
They weren't even on. There was no StarCraft on anything anywhere.
Iconography or nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. That's an Activision thing, I would think. And I think I can't help but feel like Phil coming in with the StarCraft comment.
Yeah.
I feel like that's all Phil being like, I'm not going to play by your rules. No, because we are bringing StarCraft back, and you're going to just accept it. I kind of feel like that's where Phil was going with that comment, because it was really out of place. I kind of feel like
it did feel like an olive branch, though, him being there. Like, it was a surprise. I think people kind of guessed maybe he'll come out, but certainly being there in person, like, that definitely felt like that first contact of like, here we are, we're in this blended family now, let's come together, and this is the first big chance to do it. And you're absolutely right. If they took BlizzCon away, there would be some very upset people.
Yeah.
Very. Because there is... So. I know of no other experience like it. And I've been to a lot of concerts. I've been to a lot of different things in my life. There is nothing like being there in Anaheim. And as you alluded to earlier, or said flat out, it's not cheap. It's an expensive trip. I mean, I'm lucky enough where I can drive. It's an 8-hour drive, but I can drive. And I can drive down there, stay at the Hilton that's right there, and all that stuff is pricey, plus the price of the ticket, which only gets worse. If you have to fly like yourself from another country and another continent or wherever you're coming from, plus to stay and do the whole thing, it is not a cheap proposition. But what I will say, the reward to all of that, for being there and to being around the people and experiencing that excitement and that love and that energy and like all of that in person, it's fucking unreal. Like, I can't even really describe it. And so to take that away, ooh, I
don't think they will.
I hope they don't.
I do worry, but I don't think they will. For reasons we just discussed. It's so special.
Unbelievable. And where else am I gonna meet you? I mean, let's be frank.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to, is BlizzCon 24. When I see you in the media room and we're both eating free lunches, and I go, there it is, Jez, at the top of the mountain.
I mean, this is the great thing about being press and doing these shows, is like you meet all the people that you would just never meet otherwise.
Yeah.
I can't justify just flying to California, but if I can put it on my tax return as a work expense, then it's a bit different, right?
Yes.
Because I couldn't do that if it was just a vacation. But yeah, it's I really want to be able to go. I'm definitely going to go next year.
Awesome.
If they do it, I bloody well hope they will do it.
Yeah. Well, I have every intention of going back myself. And again, if I'm lucky enough to get in that media room, we definitely have to connect, like 100%. Like that. That absolutely has to happen. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on from BlizzCon, just for the last couple things here real quick, since I got you. Today, this very day as we record, is the 19th anniversary of the release of World of Warcraft. Today, 19th anniversary. And in that same space, in all these 19 years, and then before that, we had one person who drove the art style of Blizzard and probably will have an impact on them for decades to come. And that's former, now retired, senior art director Samwise Didier, who last week announced after 32 years his retirement from Blizzard. And he had a nice post on Twitter about it, and I think some other spaces. And he posted a video on YouTube kind of explaining why he was taking off, and a lot of it had to do with sort of, reflections of where you are in your life and how much time you have left on this earth and what you want to do and accomplish and all those things. Mm-hmm. I cannot, again, overstate what impact, like Metzen, that he has had sort of on my life. I have his art literally hanging right behind me in the office where I sit. Like he has been hugely influential in my life as I've grown up and gotten to the age that I'm at now. Has he had that same sort of impact for you? Has he had that kind of meaning for you as well? Somebody's been around this space as long as you have?
Yeah, man. I mean, Samwise, like, he used to have that website, didn't he?
Yes.
I can't remember where
Sons of the Storm was, I think, one
Sons of the Storm. Yeah, like that was one of the first sort of gaming sort of enthusiast websites that I ever looked at.
Yeah.
You know, because when I've always been a gamer since I was like about 4 years old. I always been lucky enough to have access to some kind of gaming console, even though my family wasn't the most well off in the world. But the World of Warcraft was kind of like the first game where I sort of became almost an obsession, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
A lifelong obsession, you know. Even when World of Warcraft is at its worst, even when I hadn't been playing because I'd either had a broken computer or it was Warlords of Draenor, I'd still log in and check MMO Champion, you know.
Yeah.
I obsessively check MMO Champion, like, oh my god, like what's happening with it right now, and even when I'm not playing. So, you know, World of Warcraft was the first game where I thought about buying collector's editions. The first game where I'd daily read news about it, and you know, and also like become familiar with the developers like Chris Metzen, Samwise, and Kaplan and people like that. You know.
Yeah.
Whereas before, the game devs, like, I didn't really care how the sausage was made up to that point.
No.
And it was also the first time I'd been in beta tests. Like, I've been in the beta because I was a Final Fantasy 11 player originally. That was my first MMO, and Final Fantasy 11 traumatized me kind of because the game was like, it's so brutal, and if you die, you lose XP and you level down, and it was so grindy. And at the time, they didn't have European servers, so I had to stay up till 4 a.m. to get a group, and you couldn't play the game solo. But I loved the idea of a shared world game, and it was like I started reading about Warcraft. I played Warcraft 3 and I liked it and stuff, but I'm not a huge RTS guy, even though I did play Warcraft 3 and StarCraft and stuff like that. But the idea of a World of Warcraft action RPG, and the previews were saying it was going to be very solo friendly and stuff like this, and that's what they were going for, was more accessibility. It was music to my ears. I was kind of like, oh wow, I can like actually, I'll be able to actually play this game, you know.
Yeah.
And they were talking about European servers and stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I did import the American version originally because I was so desperate to play it, and I did get beta access, and to get that I had to import the American version or whatever. And so I did play the American version, and then eventually it did come out in Europe with European servers. No, even back then, I was like, there was no lag. There's one thing where I was always done well is netcode.
Yeah.
And so it's always sad when you see people like Samwise quit. It was sad when Metzen quit or retired, but you kind of like, it's gonna happen, you know. We're all getting older. Like, I started playing World of Warcraft when I was 17, you know, and you know, these dudes were like, you know, grown ass adults, you know. They've been at Blizzard for decades and stuff, and I imagine that Samwise probably got some nice money out of the sale.
Oh,
he's been there long enough to own been there long enough to own stock, I would expect.
I was gonna say, I paid out $95 a share, so I know what I made off of my little pittance ownership stake that I had. I can only imagine what some of them, like Samwise or others, I mean, millionaires if they weren't already overnight.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, they deserve it. They built that company up over the years, and it's their company. You know, it's Samwise's company. It's Metzen's company, and all the developers that have contributed to that. And I hope that all the developers that did contribute and did have stock options, I really hope that they did get a good payout. But I suppose the selfish downside of that is that we lose their expertise and their knowledge and their skill and their passion. And I do think Warcraft has potentially suffered from not having some of the OGs around. And that's why it's like it's so exciting that Metzen has decided to come back and help sort of hope maybe mentor and help shape the future of the game and stuff like that. And Star Wars kind of suffered from this too, I think, over the years until what's his name? Is it Favreau? The guy who did the Mandalorian.
Filoni is the one who like
Filoni,
kind of like the overarching guy. Favreau is the one who also has been helping like making all the stuff, but I think it's Filoni who's like George
Filoni,
Jr. He's got the hat.
Yeah, I got him mixed up. Yeah, Filoni. Yeah, he's kind of like, again, it's not been perfect the way they've handled Star Wars, but it's like at least it's in the right arena, I would say.
Yes.
And I think like he gets Star Wars. He fundamentally gets Star Wars, and Mandalorian proves that. But I think like some of the modern Warcraft people are kind of a little bit out of touch with what Warcraft 3 was and the way the old world felt. Like you go and play Classic now, and it feels different to what we get these days.
Yeah.
In like I don't know, the class and faction fantasy is so much deeper. Not the class fantasy, the race fantasy, and like I'm a goblin or I'm an undead, and you go through those starter zones. There's no starter zones now, really. I mean, you can do the Cataclysm starter zones, but God, they're so out of date.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I hope that Metzen can bring back some of that magic. And it's sad that Samwise is leaving, but the one thing that World of Warcraft does do well still is art, you know. And I think Samwise has probably mentored a ton of people really, really well to keep that tradition going forward. So I just wish him all the best, and I wish I could, you know, thank him. I wish I'd had the opportunity to meet him through work and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe you'll do a medicine. Maybe just be like, you know what, retirement sucks. I'm coming back.
Well, it sounds like
Maybe
he
he
might
will.
be doing some one-offs here and there, but yeah, obviously we wish him well, and you know, maybe one day I could get him to come on this little show, and we could talk about some things and chop it up. But yeah, it's a huge experiential loss, but right, like you're talking about, hopefully he's mentored enough people in such a way that you know, all the good stuff can shine through, and they can bring on, you know, their unique perspectives and styles and make something that's a blend of the old and the new, and something super cool. And yeah, so you know, Samwise, not that you listen to this, but you know, we wish you all the best. Now, last thing, not Warcraft related, you might know where I'm going, because if you're on this show, I've got to ask you, I've got to bring it up, because I feel like we're the two lone soldiers on the top of the hill. Cyberpunk 2077, you mentioned it earlier. How great is it to see people coming around now to what we've been talking about for the last 3 fucking years, and now everybody's like, oh, Cyberpunk's so great. I'm like, I told you, motherfuckers, and Jez told you too. Like, this game is great. This universe is great. Like, don't be dicks. Like, come on, get on board. Let's go. And it took a while, and they had to fix some shit that I'm not saying they didn't, but man, how great is it to see where it is now?
It's just amazing. You know, they've kind of like, they deserve every accolade, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what I was talking about. They stuck with it. They grinded hardcore. They took every knock. They took every clickbait article, slamming them, and you know, and all the YouTubers' bad faith argument in it, like, and all this kind of stuff. And it's so gratifying to see it get its flowers now. You know, it's funny, man. Like, I always see this like revisionist history sometimes. And I've started seeing it recently from because Remedy just launched Alan Wake 2, right?
Yes.
And it's been really, really well received.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of articles recently being like, oh, you guys should play Quantum Break as well. I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, these guys hated Quantum Break when it came out. And now like we're changing history and saying that it's good now. It's kind of feels similar with Cyberpunk in a way.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's come a long way, and you know, I know a lot of those devs. I visited Warsaw in Poland I visited their headquarters.
So jealous.
Yeah, dude, it is amazing up there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And they're an amazing team, and they kind of you could just feel the passion, the just raw passion and the love that they have for this universe, which it isn't theirs. It isn't their universe in a way. They came into it from they came into it sideways, kind of from the tabletop version of the game.
Yeah.
And similar to The Witcher, Witcher comes from books, and they kind of they take universes that they are personally passionate about within the team and try and bring them to AAA gaming. And I always thought that in that they nailed Cyberpunk, even back then. Like they nailed what Cyberpunk was supposed to be. They nailed the world and stuff. Yeah, it had a few bugs, and I think, they mismarketed it maybe. The marketing didn't meet up with the reality of the game, and people wanted it to be Grand Theft Auto for some reason, maybe the marketing did lead some people to think it was going to be Grand Theft Auto.
One trailer, Jesus, people, calm down.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just glad that they've got this redemption arc now, and yeah, I actually haven't finished the DLC myself yet. I just haven't had time.
I haven't either. I'm still taking my sweet time on a new playthrough because they rejiggered the whole system, right? It's a 2.0 they did, and so I'm
got Warcraft-like talent trees now.
Yeah, it's pretty in depth. I like it, and I'm just kind of taking my time. And I always think of you when I see all of these articles and videos and all these people. Oh, look how great it is! I'm like, you are the same goddamn people that were running this thing down. And I remember playing it through and going, "Oh, you'll see," and on top of the CDPR team, the other person that I'm really happy for, I don't know whether he cares or not, is Mike Pondsmith, who created the Cyberpunk universe and has been working with CDPR to do all of this, right? And so
he's like, he's a dev on the game.
Yes,
really.
Yeah, I mean, you go back. There's a video on their YouTube page, and I swear it's years and years ago, where he's talking about, him flying his butt over to Poland a bunch of times a year because they're working on this team, and he found somebody who was passionate enough to make it right and to do all this stuff. And so, it's so nice, so gratifying. It feels so good. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who has a cybernetic arm tattooed on his body. I'm also saying that as somebody who is, deeply invested in this universe, right up alongside Warcraft and StarCraft. And so, the very, very last thing I have to ask you before we jump out of here is, they talked about the next chapter, whatever it's going to be. Where do you think the Cyberpunk franchise will go next?
Man, that's really tough. I suppose, without giving away the end of the game, it really depends on. I suppose it depends on what ending you get, but
yeah.
Well, I won't talk about the ending, but I imagine it's probably going to be. I would imagine it's going to be a sequel, not a prequel or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, I don't know. Actually, they could probably consider we could do a prequel here, because Johnny Silverhand's a super popular character, and and there's a lot of history with the different characters and the fixers and Johnny Silverhand and the people that he knows and the whole scene in Night City.
Yeah,
there's a lot that could do there potentially with a prequel. But I would honestly prefer to see them just do a sequel, move the storyline forward.
Yeah.
Maybe come up with original stuff with Mike Pondsmith himself and explore where the game could go. Maybe do a different city, if it's not Night City. I'm not familiar with the wider lore of the tabletop version of the game or whatever. If there are other cities that could potentially look at doing, I'd be really interested to see where they could take it.
There could be. I mean, because there's still some major cities that are left in the world, but Night City's kind of the one where I think it's the most fictional one that they center on. Because, in other ones, Atlanta's a place, I think, and I'm pretty sure Los Angeles is still around. There's some major metropolitan hubs that still exist, but Night City's the one that they created. Because if you go down to where it's supposed to be, Morro Bay in California, which is only just a few hours from where I sit, there's nothing like what you see there. The basic topography is kind of the same. And what's super cool about the Phantom Liberty, the full CGI cinematic that they did, where you see them up in space flying in that, whatever that vehicle is, and you're looking down at the coast of California, like that is the coast of California. That is what it looks like. So like their attention to detail in that way is just, it's super cool, and I really appreciate it. And when they're talking about like going to Reno or being on I-80, or one of our big freeways here, it cracks me up because I'm like, I know all these places, I know all this shit. Like, this is awesome, So if they moved it, I certainly would be a little, like, it's too bad, because it's kind of neat to see all that. But yeah, moving that story forward, oh man, possibilities are endless. It's so cool.
Yeah, maybe they could do it in London.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, London. Let
you folks have a crack at it.
Yeah, why not?
And then you can be like,
Watch Dogs Legion wasn't. I had such high hopes for Watch Dogs Legion, and they did nail London, like the authenticity of London, but the gameplay was not great. But I don't know.
Trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
That's, if there was a lesson for today, that's it. Balance.
Balance.
All right. I think we've done enough damage for one episode. I want to thank my guest, the unstoppable force that is Jez Corden. My appreciation, as always, for stopping by. And for those who don't know, where can the good people find you on the internets?
You can find me on Twitter at Jez Corden, or X, or whatever they're calling it these days. I mostly talk about Xbox there, but it's I do get into World of Warcraft sometimes, and I have a lot. I mainly cover the Microsoft ecosystem, so now that includes Activision Blizzard. Thankfully,
yes.
This is kind of a dream come true for me as a Microsoft journalist / Activision fan. Well, Blizzard fan, I suppose. But yeah, also on YouTube, Randolph 419's channel, Xbox 2 podcast, where we talk about the Xbox and Microsoft ecosystem, which includes Windows and PC gaming and stuff. And I'm on YouTube at jez.c, which is mostly just a second channel for the podcast, but I do stream games there sometimes, usually Diablo or something else that doesn't require a huge amount of focus.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Oh, always a pleasure, and thank you for coming on as always. And my thanks to all of you for listening. And remember, you can always follow me and the show on Twitter or X or whatever at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury, on Blue Sky at Berserker and Unshackled Fury, as well as on Twitch at Unshackled Fury and Real Berserker. You can always join our Discord as well, links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and on our bonus roll page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or on shackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.